Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. Got a little bit of a weird show this week because some off-topic football stuff that we're going to hit on. But first, right off the bat, Sean Payton announces that he's stepping away from the game. I put on here that he's retiring. I've heard reports that he might not be fully retiring. So I think a lot of the official reports have been that he's resigned. And he's kind of mentioned other possibilities, kind of like probably what Chris Peterson did for Washington, where he stepped away. He's like, I don't want to coach. Don't want that stress anymore. I said, well, that's kind of weird. I wonder if there's other things that are going to come out, and then nothing ever did. But he said he has no plans to coach a football team in 2022, but he's open to like doing a football job in television. Maybe, I mean, he didn't say even off the field. He could be an analyst or something. I think that looking at his stats, his offenses have always been lights out. To me, though, he's always had Drew Brees. The offenses without Drew Brees have been pretty good. I mean, surprisingly, considering who he's had at quarterback. But now it seemed like with Jameis, they could have kept things going. So I think it's kind of surprising that he stepped away. But I want to get your thoughts because I know you're strong on Jameis.
Well, I think that it opens the door to potentially, I believe Winston is a potential free agent this offseason. I think that opens the door for him to come home to Pittsburgh, where it makes sense.
Home.
Come home.
No crabs there. None.
It doesn't matter. There's winning to be had. Just throw it up deep.
They do crabbing in the Northeast. Don't they do it up in Boston? You could be right at home there.
They'll go to Baltimore twice a year. They're known for crab cakes.
Oh yeah, the cakes, but I don't know if he likes those. I'm not a fan of crab cakes. Crab legs all the way. So I'd be on board for Team Jameis. Because I mean, honestly, as we're getting into it, I mean the retirement talk. So strictly for him, to me, before we get into the Jameis and Steelers quarterback thing, because I know we're going to be hitting on that, his legacy I think is kind of tied to Drew Brees, but also the scandal, Bountygate. He only won one Super Bowl the same exact year that happened, right?
Yes, that was the year that happened. But I was wondering,
but no one ever says it about Tom Brady. Remember his Deflategate? That after all the Super Bowls, people are still telling me that they're like, I don't even know why you like Tom Brady. He's a jerk, or he cheats. You know, I'm like, he's still cheating. He's winning. First of all, it was all Belichick. Tom Brady still sucks. Every quarterback Belichick has is good. And then Tom Brady comes back and it's like, oh, he's still winning. I mean, in that they almost won on Sunday. He had like nobody left playing with him on offense. He was getting sacked almost every play. I was like, and I told you, I'm more confident with Brady at quarterback. They're going to come back in this game. And it was like 27-3. I wasn't confident with Aaron Rodgers on Saturday, and that proved right. Right, Matt? I told you, no confidence from me. It could have been a 2-touchdown lead. I wouldn't have been confident. Tom Brady, 3 touchdowns. I'm like, they're going to tie this game up. And they did. He deserved to win. I'm very sad that the defense couldn't stop that play. But getting back to Payton, I think you should have the same conversation. Same with like Drew Brees. Drew Brees wasn't winning with the Chargers. I mean, Nick Saban wanted to bring him in. And I always wondered, like, what if he had passed that failed exam? And you had a Nick Saban, Drew Brees dynasty in Miami. Right?
Tough to say.
So I don't know. I would have liked to see Payton do it a little bit longer without Drew Brees, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely think that it would have been interesting to see. I mean, I also think, how different does that season play out if Jameis doesn't get hurt? Because instead of going through a revolving door that after he got hurt, the backup to the backup got hurt, and the backup to the backup to the backup got hurt. So like he was running like a 5th-string quarterback by the end of the year and was still in a position to be competitive.
And that's where I'm kind of like, they weren't too far away. And since he's like stepping away, I don't know if he had a contract he needed to extend, because like they say that he's retiring, but keeping his options open. Could another team just sign him? I don't know how it's contracted, because sometimes you're signed for like 5 years. You either have to accept a buyout or whatever pay.
Well, he would still be under contract for a couple more years. So regardless of if he wanted to go somewhere else, the other team would have to be compensated.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Which means Mark Davis will be giving up a bunch of picks. He'll be going to the Raiders.
I'm telling you, if that happens, I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest, but I wonder if that would work out. Like, that could be a cool deal for him. But he did say he's not going to coach this year. He could be pulling the Urban Meyer. You take a year or two off, work in the television media, have him like, come on, guys, you don't need to be bringing up that Bounty Gate every time I'm on TV. And just like his Florida scandals, remember they would always bring that up. He's worked in the media, went to Ohio State, never mentioned.
No, they had that. They had the Bounty Gate. Did anyone actually get hurt from that?
Are you saying that it was poorly coached?
I'm saying they put the bounties out there like it was. They're like, hey, if you get a crack at Brady, like you break his leg. But like,
I feel like I mentioned it on our show at least every week that someone was hurt. So everyone gets hurt all the time anyway in the NFL. So I don't even know if they could even prove that people were injured. I guarantee teams that they played against, people were injured. Now they're so strict on like the headhunting stuff that I think, boom, they wouldn't even get far. Because you're pretty much taking the hit, getting out the next week. You'd probably lose pay or whatever, get fined. So like I feel like Bounty Gate would become really expensive. And I almost wonder if they saw how successful that was. And they were like, we need to start hitting them in their wallets to kind of offset this so it doesn't go more widespread.
Yeah. But,
I mean, that's just a theory. I think they've done a really great job of cleaning it up. And like I said, I mean, the reffing this weekend was so great. I had no complaints. It was really awesome to watch football. NFL did a really great job, so kudos to them. And their owners. Anything else you have on Sean Payton?
No.
I wonder if people even talk about him. Because like there are a lot of coaches, like, you know, people still bring up like Bill Parcells. Huh? And like some coaches people don't bring up at all. Like I rarely hear anyone bring up like George Walsh. And like he was a winner. It's not just like, damn, that guy's like a young George Walsh. Like, no one will say
Walsh?
That. Bill Walsh. What did I say that last time?
George Walsh. George Costanza.
I said Bill Walsh the first time, didn't I?
No, you said George. I thought it was like you're going to mix up with George Seifert, who followed him.
Oh, maybe that is what I'm thinking. But yeah, no one mentions him either. They'll mention Joe Montana, but they're not like, and they were pretty much West Coast all the way. But now they'll be like, oh, Andy Reid, look at his West Coast offense, man. Perfect coach. And I feel like they'll be talking about Andy Reid for 20 years after he retires. But some of the other coaches, like I wonder if Sean Payton will be in that book, or if he's so tied to Drew Brees in the media's mind that they'll just kind of go right over him. But I don't know. We'll find out. NFL playoffs this weekend. Like I had already hinted, well, that wasn't even the first game. The first game was the Bengals, and they won pretty much back and forth game. I can't remember exactly how back and forth it was, but they were playing Tennessee. Tennessee, I thought they might get hot there and go on a run, but it was like they couldn't like distance themselves or like keep drives going. And like you let Cincinnati hang around and do their thing, and Joe Burrow has the swagger like we've all seen. And that's why anyone tells me, oh, Ryan Day is like the greatest coach. He's so good with quarterbacks. I'm like, bro, he had Joe Burrow and he was like, I'm not going to play you. You probably should transfer. And then he's shown that he's like one of the greatest quarterbacks, probably winning the Heisman. And it's like, all right, well, maybe that's his judgment. Maybe he doesn't know what a good quarterback looks like, right? Because everything that I've seen from Joe Burrow, it's like this kid is lights out. He has the confidence. It wasn't like he was even platooning him. I don't think he ever played at Ohio State, really.
No, but I think that with what Ohio State does with their run game, like he wasn't going to be a spread to run quarterback, so he wasn't going to.
Dwayne Haskins, he wasn't running the ball.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't. Are you serious? You've never watched them play then. I'm going to look up his stats. He was like a statue back there. He was worse than Tom Brady.
Oh my God, you're delirious.
No, I'm telling you. I'm looking them up, so we'll keep going. I mean, I do know that they make system QBs, but I'm just saying Joe Burrow, everything I see about him, the swagger, the leadership, it's just all over the board. And actually, so I searched Dwayne Haskins' college stats. It's him, and there's even a comparison with Joe Burrow right off the bat, because I think that's who they picked to stay over him. He was at Ohio State. Oh, I guess he did play in 5 games in 2016, 5 games in 2017, but he only attempted like 30 passes, so he probably just played cleanup duty. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for his Ohio State career. And then they went Haskins. Yeah, so he was the backup to Haskins. No, where the hell is his running? Oh, here we go, Matt. Rushing. 86 yards, bro. His total career was 194 yards. He averaged 1.9 yards a carry. He wasn't the running quarterback. I watch a lot of Ohio State games, obviously, because for whatever reason, they're always playing in Big Ten games. And I'm like, man, I hope they get beat so Michigan can get in the championship game every while. It never happens. Penn State lucks into it, and then they back into a championship, and they're like, you know what, Ohio State, we beat you guys, but we're really not that good. So you guys should just take the playoff spot. That's like Penn State. If you're a Penn State fan, come on. You guys rally together to bring back Jopa statues, but when you ever have a chance at the playoffs, where's the rallies? Where's the protests? Where's the flipping of cars to make the playoffs? It's like, and we beat them, but we better let them in the playoffs. We don't have a chance. And then they're like, Penn State football's good. I'm telling you, Penn State, it is good. I mean, Michigan just got blown out. What Penn State wouldn't have got blown out? I mean, maybe they would have competed. Who knows? But at least Ohio State got blown out that year, so it wouldn't have been any worse.
Yeah.
But no, who was the running quarterback before that? He wasn't even in the NFL. I can't even remember. Because the one guy got hurt. And the only reason I know Haskins can throw is because I think he came in the one year Michigan was leading and they hurt their starting quarterback, the running one. Well,
there was the year where they had Cardell Jones and they had Pryor and they had
Cardell Jones backed up. What was the guy? He was there forever.
JT Barrett.
Yeah, JT Barrett. I think he broke his leg in the Michigan game, and Michigan was all keyed up to stop the run, and so Haskins came in, didn't run at all, and just like shredded the defense. That's the only reason I remember like he doesn't run. So I'm like, damn. It's like you pray or you practice, you get the team ready to go, and then their guy gets hurt, and the backup's totally different, and you have no game plan for him. He just shreds you. But that's where, like, you're looking at that in the NFL playoffs. Joe Burrow, he could win it all this year. I'll say this. We'll stick with the AFC first. But that's the kind of swagger. I know it's way off topic on a bunch of Ohio State stuff for no reason. But I think that's the guy that if you're looking for a young quarterback that can win, he can get it done. I picked the Bills. I don't know if I had the Bills versus the Titans or what, but the Bills, they had a chance. You got to close out the games. I feel like it's 1991 again, or 3 or 4. How many years in a row were they in the championship game? Was it 91? I don't even know what year they started it. But being a kid, it was always like, hey, the Bills are really good. They're going to win the Super Bowl. And I think I talked about on the show. Like, I remember one time we did a pick 'em, and like I was like in first grade, and I'm like, Bills are going to win. Oh yeah, they're always in the Super Bowl. They're bound to win one. Nope. I'm like one of the only kids that picked them. I feel like an idiot. So now I just know, like, if the Bills are there, they don't have the winning culture. They should have won that game. Now you're letting Mahomes get another chance. And I know he only has 1 Super Bowl. But it's like, how much longer can they keep their team together? This has to be one of the last runs, right?
It depends on how much of the coaching staff I think they keep in place.
Well, I think the players, like, you can't have Hill and who else do they even have? I mean, they're pretty much stacked on offense because of like their tight end and Kelsey and what's the other guy receiver that they have? I mean, I know they had like Sammy Watkins move, but like they've had some other big time guys. Like if Hill or crap, I know it's not Hartman. It'll come back to me, but I know if some of those guys start to move, Mahomes isn't going to be the same guy. He's not the same guy whenever they're out. Like when Kelsey was out, they've kind of struggled to move the ball. Maybe those guys all take pay cuts. The running back has kind of been a revolving door for them. But I'm just saying right off the bat, I wouldn't mind seeing Joe Burrow beat them. I mean, I think Andy Reid has been getting a lot of praise. He's known as a choker. I'm very disappointed in the Bills for blowing that game. I think like you got to go for the jugular. You got to close it out, and you got to go for it. Tennessee, I thought, should have kept riding Derrick Henry. Maybe he wasn't 100%, and I really wanted to see like what could happen if he ended up playing Kansas City, because I had a feeling the Kansas City game was going to be a coin flip, which it ended up really was. So what do you think of that, the coin flip and the overtime stuff?
Well, watching the tail end of that game, I told my wife, this is insane. Like, I have no vested interest in either team. And like my heart was pounding, like I had a large sum of money at stake. I think the game never should have went to overtime. There was a huge mismanagement. I think if Buffalo doesn't kick the ball into the back of the end zone and just squibs it at the end of the game, they as soon as the ball hits the turf, the clock starts running.
I think it has to hit a guy.
But I think like even to squib it, you're gonna knock a couple seconds off the clock. That second pass that they were able to get off in time, it's null and void. They're having to take a shot from the 50-yard line or so.
Yeah, because I know one of the big strategies, because didn't they move the kickoff up? So you see teams really kick it high and like try to get it to land like around the 5-yard line, but a lot of teams still fair catch that. So then it's like, okay, well, what's the point? Because like it's kind of like a punt. They're seeing the team, and if it's so high that the team's already at the 20-yard line when you're about to catch the ball, you just fair catch it because you know, like, what am I going to get to 10, 15? Like, if your blocks aren't set up, you can just fair catch it, just like a punt, if they're too close to you. So I think that's what you're seeing. Teams are kicking it too high. Now they're trying to like find a happy medium where like we want the guy to take it out. But I think the rules right now, it's too tough to even have a lot of kick returns. So squibbing, I think it's a good idea. I still see a lot of teams kick it out of bounds for some reason. It's like, what are you doing? But looking at this game, Kansas City, I just think right now they're still on their run. I don't know what their contract situation is. I don't know how they can pay all these dudes. But Green Bay's like struggling to just pay Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, like two guys. They're like, sorry guys, we can't just work this out. And Kansas City's like, no, we're gonna have everyone back for like a couple more years. So right now my feeling, I don't think the Super Bowl is gonna come out of the AFC, but I wouldn't mind, out of all the teams that are left, I think I would like Cincinnati to win it the most. I know that kind of goes against it because a lot of Pittsburgh people hate them, but I don't mind Joe Burrow. And let's be honest, it's not like Steelers are going to be competing anytime soon. I don't think you want like a Kansas City dynasty to happen. So I think spreading it around and letting other teams like win one or two here is a better move. Plus, I don't want to keep hearing the Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes comparisons because it's ridiculous at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. Tom Brady had never had, I mean, I guess you can count maybe the Randy Moss, Aaron Hernandez years. Those are like one-offs. He's never had like, how many years in a row has Mahomes had these dudes? 4, 5?
I feel like he's had Amendola and Welker, Edelman. Like there's a couple years where he scraped the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, but he hasn't had like multiple weapons on the team. It was usually one of those guys. And those are slot receivers. They're not like Hill explosive breaking down the field.
Yeah, and that's also not Brady's throwing style to throw it down the field.
I think Antonio Brown would have a word with that. Antonio Brown was great with him.
Apparently not.
No, they're best friends. I know it probably pissed him off whenever they kept saying that him and Gronkowski were best friends at the last broadcast. Which I always wonder, like, I'm watching a game and they're like talking about Tom Brady's best friends. It's like, why? I never hear them bring up like, you know who Ben Roethlisberger's best friend is? Like, it's only Tom Brady they ever say the word best friend.
Well, that's because nobody else has a best friend.
It's like Antonio Brown, because that's why I always bring it up, because that one broadcast I was laughing so hard because they're like, Antonio Brown actually thinks that he's Tom Brady's best friend. And I'm like, this is the reporting you're giving me? Like, it's so outrageous that the announcer doesn't think that Antonio Brown is Tom Brady's best friend. So they had to have a real off-camera conversation like, do you think he's his best friend? And they're like, I don't know, probably not. He's like, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it on TV. And so now they're like, oh, well, Gronkowski's his real best friend, right? Well, bring that up. Bring that up during the playoffs and talk about it for 5 minutes. And then have pictures of like Gronkowski doing like golf and stuff. I'm like, why you show me this? Maybe that was a pregame. Maybe I should stop watching pregame stuff. My mind warps. But like, honestly, I've never seen or heard another quarterback talk about, and it's not even them talking about their best friend. Like, it's not like a video of Tom Brady saying like, Rob Gronkowski's my best friend. It's like the announcer guessing who Tom Brady's best friend is. They're like, look, Tom didn't give us any sound bites this week. We need to come up with something. He's like, I can do a segment on best friends, 5 minutes. Got it.
Lock it in.
Because like, you're coach. How many times do you even think like, hey, I wonder if that's my guy's best friend? Probably never, right?
No. Maybe I should.
Start bringing it up. Say, well, I'm going to have to start putting you in here as best friend, right? They're like, tell the quarterback, who's your best friend? All right, that's going to be our new tight end. That's our new wide receiver. Your best friend. Because I told you in fantasy before that I picked most of the receiver or the tight end for like the Bengals because they did a report on him being roommates. It was like, hey, so-and-so was looking for roommates, so the tight end moved in with the new quarterback. And maybe it was Andy Dalton back in the day. I'm like, or maybe it was the Browns.
Yeah, it was Eifert.
Yeah, it was Eifert. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's moving in. They're going to be, if they're rooming together, they're hanging out, they're going to be throwing the ball around. I know he's going to explode. And so that's kind of where it went. And so then I'm like, man, I need more reporting like that. But then no one reports like that. Now it's like Tom Brady's best friend. I'm like, everyone already knows who he throws to. So like, that's not going to help me in fantasy. So if you're a reporter and you're listening to this, dig into the guys' best friends that are young quarterbacks so that I know for fantasy who to pick. Do a whole segment on best friends and receivers and quarterbacks because that's how I'll pick like my late round wide receivers. That's all I have on it. You have anything else for my best friend segment?
No.
Because Tom Brady, they shouldn't even have been in that game. That was so ridiculous that he came back, and I am saddened because I feel like he wants to retire. He looked on the sideline like they were like, Tom Brady looks mad. He's going to really start throwing it. And then they're like, there's no way. People I'm talking to are like, there's no way that Tampa Bay has no one left. I told you, Godwin being out killed their offense.
With all of the moves that, like with all these games, a lot of the plays were shots down the middle of the field, and that surprises me so much because I would think like there's so much common sense football that it's protect the middle of the field, force them to throw the ball down the sideline where it's a higher percentage or like a lower percentage completion rate, and take your chances. And there are so many plays that Cup's completion was down the middle of the field on busted coverage, and a couple other plays were like the guys were running down the middle of the field. It was like, what are you doing?
Well, see, that's where with Tampa, their offense couldn't do anything in the middle of the field. And Tom Brady even loves to dink and dunk it down the middle of the field, which everyone knows. And I felt like the entire game, he was kind of just like dropping back, seeing the middle was covered, kind of throwing it up to Evans, or maybe like getting him on a comeback, and it's like 3-yard gain. And you're like, how many comebacks is Evan going to do in this game? But then I'm like, there's no way they're coming back because they don't have anyone to stretch the field. They have that. Evans had like one big play, maybe.
Yeah. On
Ramsey. Yeah, for the touchdown. That really got them back in the game. And that's when I knew they're going to tie this up. Rams are going to blow this immediately. And to be honest, Rams should have blown it at the end because Stafford fumbled that ball, or he came close to fumbling it if he didn't fumble it. Right after Tom Brady tied the game, you decide to run a quarterback draw. I'm like, that's the most Lions thing I've ever seen. And then even after the game, he's like, I made that really poor decision to try to run. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? All you have to do is take it to overtime, if anything. And then that way, if you lose in overtime, they can't knock you. Because like everyone was coming in saying Stafford can't win a playoff game. He's 1-0 in his career. He's like going 3 or 0-4, whatever it is, with the Lions. So he finally wins one. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to lose this myself. Like, hey, I'm just going to fumble it real quick here. Right in field goal range with like a minute left. And luckily they recovered so they didn't review it to see if he was actually down. His knee might have been down, but I'm like, that's pretty risky considering that Akers had already fumbled that one. And I'm like, you know that the Bucs are just going to strip him. But it almost felt like they kind of knew this was their last chance with Tom Brady, right? Is that what the feeling you got?
I was amazed at how much McVay was still giving carries to Akers after the first fumble. Because a lot of times when you see players that fumble, and it's not like he's been playing all year. Like they've had that Sony Michel carrying the ball, and he's been doing well. And it's like Akers came back from that Achilles injury, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna rock it till the wheels fall off."
Well, it felt like Michel was in there, but they kind of every time he's in there, you know, they're kind of gonna pass it, and like they even have like the designed pass runs for him. You know how they do the short screen passes that are like quick. Not real screens, just to act like a run. The Steelers were trying to do that all the time with James Conner after Le'Veon Bell left because they didn't really have a run game. And it just doesn't work sometimes. But yeah, you're right. I'm kind of like, why do they keep running him? But honestly, the Rams are loaded. That's why I said I don't think the AFC was going to win it. I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl, barring, I'll put my asterisks on it, if they get up on San Francisco is not coming back. They're not going to be able to pull Tom Brady. I mean, you watch the best quarterback of all time to say, I don't care if my team is half injured. I mean, even the one receiver he was thrown to gets injured. Like on that one by the end zone, he like got crushed in the back, and I don't think he ever came back in. So then they were saying that like Brait was running, he was playing their slot receiver by the end of the game. And they still came back. Like, I don't know if the Rams looked at that and they're like, you know what? You know what we need to really do? Just soften up. Like they have no one left. They're definitely not going to score a bunch of touchdowns in a row. And their offense like couldn't do anything. So maybe that's why they put Akers in. They're like, please get us a first down. Do something. I don't know. But I think they're so loaded on defense that even my man Tom Brady that usually gets rid of the ball so fast, he was getting hit. And he was getting hit a lot. And that's why I watched his post-game demeanor. I've never really seen him like that lately. Where it was almost like, oh my gosh, he might retire.
Well, he was missing his best friend.
Antonio Brown or... I know they... Well, I guarantee they brought that up during the game and not pregame because it was probably during the blowout where they're like, what are we going to talk about? Tom Brady's best friend. We'll put that in. People want to hear a good story, something light heartwarming because he's getting killed right now. And then they're like, whoa, stop the best friend talk. They're coming back. And they're like, there's no way the Rams are going to keep giving him the ball back. And I will say this, Matt. They went for it on fourth down twice in their own, like all going in near the red zone. If they would have kicked both times, they win by 3.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone expected the Rams to fully self-implode. So I'm sure Tom Brady said, like, no, we got to go for this right now. And maybe the Rams, seeing them fail, maybe that's why they went riskier. But I think the Rams are the best team left. I don't know if they're going to win it. They got to play disciplined. And they play San Francisco. Green Bay, if you'd have told me going in that Green Bay scored 10 points, I would have told you they lost. I don't care if it's the snow, if it's whatever. They blame it on the special teams. But the offense didn't do anything. Aaron Rodgers had 50 yards in the entire second half?
Yeah.
So, if you're telling me that you're going to bring him back or you want him to go to the Steelers or whatever and they're instant contenders, is it more of a Peyton Manning thing at this point? Where you're awesome in the regular season? Or even Ben Roethlisberger, a couple years ago, almost undefeated, get in the playoffs, you're done. It's okay. That's going to be your legacy forever, right? You're going to have the one Super Bowl win. Same with like Mahomes. I mean, you can lose a bunch of them if they even get back this year. I have a bad feeling. Like, what if it is Kansas City and San Francisco rematch and Mahomes wins another one? And it's like, all right, they're just better than the 49ers. 49ers got lucky that Green Bay kind of forgot to play offense because otherwise Green Bay would have beat them. Like, if they do anything on offense, and even if they don't get that kick blocked, which I would say, like, that's absurd. I think that's the first time in like 30 years that someone had a kick and a punt blocked in the same game in the playoffs. Because no one does that. That's like self-implosion 101. And honestly, that's kind of on the head coach. And what they keep comparing the 49ers to, they keep saying that they're like the Giants with Eli Manning. I'm like, yeah. Eli Manning was slinging the ball. The 49ers are nothing like them. They're more like the Trent Dilfer Ravens. Trent Dilfer was not winning them a game. Garoppolo, when he's on the field, zero confidence. Like, watching them, I'm like, zero confidence Garoppolo's going to do anything good. Eli Manning is throwing the helmet catch. I know he's in that commercial with Leon from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know his real name. Where he's like, the helmet catch. And Payton's like, I would have probably hit him in the numbers. Or whatever, like, like a condescending dig. Obviously a good joke, but I mean, Eli hit Manningham. People forget that Manningham, that Michigan man, he had that big catch before. I think it was the same game, or maybe it was the other year that they won. Whereas like he needed a big catch, he can get the ball down the field. I don't see that from Garoppolo. Like, he didn't even score. They needed the block punt to score the touchdown, right? I know they beat the Rams. They beat the Rams up a little bit, but I have to say they're going to LA. They took over LA last time. We had just talked about it. It was only a couple weeks ago. I would say that the Rams are going to come out though, beat them. I have a bad feeling Kansas City is going to be back in the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to pick them because whatever. Andy Reid will do his thing. I'm going to go with Cincinnati and the Rams, which kind of is a breath of fresh air. I mean, Tampa Bay, people were kind of like, it's the same old thing, Tom Brady. But Tampa Bay hadn't been there for 20, 30 years. So, however, I guess it was 20 or 19 or something like that. So, get new teams in there. The Rams had been there. They had lost. Let Cincinnati go in there. I don't think people want to see Mahomes a bunch of times, especially now because they're going to be playing a 4 or 6 seed from the NFC. So, you're not getting the best. So, would it be a blowout? Who knows? But now Kansas City has home field advantage. What do you think for those two games?
I don't know. I think for as confidently as Burrow's playing, they have a shot. I just don't know. I don't know if their defense has the speed to match what Kansas City's bringing. But what surprised me was Tyreek Hill runs. He's running to score one of the touchdowns, and he's given the peace sign, and it's not a taunting penalty. Like, how does that work?
They don't care, Matt.
Like that, and it's going to sound repetitive and redundant, but that was one of the things that we talked about through the course of the years. Like, if you're going to say taunting is an issue, then it needs to be consistent. Like, I think it drives me crazy that that's not taunting. But then you can have a turnover and everyone's doing a team celebration in the end zone, and that's not taunting. But then,
no, yeah, but I told you that
then you high five your teammate, and it's like, actually, that is taunting, and we're going to penalize you for like
the team celebration thing. They specifically, I kind of told you as a joke, but they put that in the rules. I know we read it on the show like a couple years ago when they implemented it, that it has to be a team-wide thing in the end zone. I felt like it was very specific on what they could do. So that's why you see all the teams do it. And I thought it was dumb when they made that rule because they promoted it like celebrations are back, but it was kind of like only if you celebrate this way though. Like, it's kind of like if someone was like working and they're like, hey, good news, you can start drinking at work, but only O'Doul's. And you're like, oh, well, okay, whatever. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I hope the placebo effect really kicks in today. Because that's like, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's stale to me. If you're going to bring back celebrations, let the players do it. Make a name for themselves. Let them get that money. That's why I like the NCAA too. A lot of players are going to realize you're going to get that NIL money. The guaranteed money is going to pale in comparison to if you have a Johnny Manziel type season. So like if people know your name because of your crazy antics, you're going to get a lot more money. Right? I mean, you could go the other way and be a Tebow and get the same effect. But like for wide receivers, everyone knows T.O., they know Ochocinco, they know Randy Moss. They don't know these other guys that do it the right way, you know, according to the media. But I don't know. That's my feeling. The playoff games, everything was decided by a game-ending score. And there were a lot of back-and-forth football. So if you liked it, you had a little bit of everything. You had some high-scoring games. You had a major comeback that fell flat. Well, I guess it didn't fall flat. They came back. The defense just blew it. That's why I told you, like you said they might have been doubling OBJ. Let him go. He hasn't done anything in the past 3 years. You got to double Cooper Kupp. He had like the best year. And to let him run over the middle was even more absurd, like you said. Right after Stafford almost fumbled it, it's like almost, just double cover Kupp because he's staring him down. That's my fear, is that the 49ers watch that and they know that he's going to stare down Kupp, and they're going to double cover him and get to the Super Bowl and lose to Kansas City again. That's my negative review or prediction. But that's the one that's going to come true, Matt. Not my Cincinnati Rams one. I'm telling you. I'm predicting it now. So if you're betting, that's going to be the bet. Kansas City is going to beat San Francisco in the Super Bowl again. I don't even know if San Francisco will have a lead. They have their running back that is also with a wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, which I did see a tweet. It was like, I've been hating this guy because I thought he went to Ohio State. Didn't know he went to South Carolina. I thought he went to Clemson, to be honest, because I remember him, but I was like, guess not where I thought he was from. But I don't know. Anything else you have for the NFL? I don't have anything.
No, I don't think.
All right. Next one, my big one. I complained about the media. My man Barry Bonds didn't get put in the Hall of Fame for Major League Baseball. So I put on here, and I felt embarrassed writing it, Hall of Shame, because that's what it is. I mean, I would never take my family to the Hall of Fame now. There's absolutely nothing where I would say, like, hey, this is a definitive Hall of Fame. The best player that I've ever seen growing up, and I remember watching Tony Gwynn and thinking, Tony Gwynn is awesome. Like, the guy is always hitting the ball, and you would think that every time he's at the plate, he's going to hit the ball and play. Now, most of those were singles. I was at Tony Gwynn's final tour, like I don't know which game it was, but we went to, was it probably Three Rivers at that point? Maybe it was, no, I guess it was probably before PNC, but I was at the game where the year he was retiring, and it was one of his final games, his last one in Pittsburgh, or one of the last ones in Pittsburgh. He had a home run, and he came out and got a standing ovation, and they were like announcing that he's going to be retiring and like making the Hall of Fame, and I'm like, that's a guy right there. Now imagine that, but with home run power. That was Barry Bonds. There's been no one else, and I know like some of the newer guys have been putting up great numbers too, but with Barry Bonds, Matt, that year he hit 73 home runs. He was walked like almost all the time. He was walked once with bases loaded. They were just like, you know what? We're just going to let them have a run. Because otherwise Barry could hit a home run here. And it could be fun. Like, it was absurd the amount. Like, I remember watching some of his home runs to the opposite field and thinking like, well, damn, he missed that. And it would go over the outfield wall. Like over the stadium wall. And I'm like, holy shit, he crushed that. That was absolutely a mammoth shot. So everyone talks about like, oh, Barry Bonds only hit those home runs because he was on steroids, even though he never tested positive. And I thought that Ortiz was suspended. Maybe I'm wrong. Was A-Rod suspended? That whole era is kind of blurry, but Ortiz gets in. I don't understand how any baseball writer can look in the mirror and say, I'm not voting for Barry Bonds, but I'm going to vote for David Ortiz. Not even as good of a player. He couldn't even play the field. He was DH. Right?
Yeah.
The Big Papi, like, I remember him, like, he went to the Red Sox, but he was somewhere else first, and he wasn't even that good. And I was like, oh, well, this guy's not going to work out for the Red Sox as they try to make the World Series. And maybe that's it. Breaking the curse gave him, like, a pass. And even Ortiz came out. I found the article. I tried to find out if he was suspended, but the only thing I could say is that Ortiz said that his failed steroid test leaked because too many Yankees tested positive. So, like, what? What does that even mean? So, like, A-Rod was in there, Manny Ramirez, Ortiz, Sammy Sosa, and they said Barry Bonds was. But then the actual report that came out, Barry Bonds never officially tested positive, and none of the results ever said it. The only thing that said that he tested positive was a New York Times anonymous report. But the other guys that came out, a lot of the other guys that have been mentioned in that same phrase, they've had positive tests. No one has ever seen proof of Barry Bonds' test other than, I mean, and let's be honest, New York Times writes a lot of fake news. I know it's kind of like a catchphrase or whatever, but like some of the stuff they write is just ridiculous out there. So like you can't tell me New York Times, they're a bastion of pure reporting. It's like, how do I know some Yankees fan or like some other baseball guy just made that up and threw Barry Bonds' name in there? Because like they tried to bring it out, they put him into court. If they would have had the evidence, they would have brought it up in court. They had it on the other guys, right? Like he had nothing. They drug him into court and did like nothing to him. So for all that he went through, and then for them to be like, hey, you never, whatever, that's going to be it. So here's the other thing from Ortiz. He also said that everyone got caught. The New York Times and the reporters told them what they tested positive for, except for David Ortiz. Nobody told me that I tested positive for steroids. But like the Barry Bonds thing, I remember the article that they said that they did. So, and you can look this up because I remember reading the article. I think ESPN, the magazine, way back in the day, did an article on how Barry Bonds was doing magnesium drips or something, where like he was getting IVs to like rehydrate. And so they theorized that he was also on steroids, but like, what if he was just taking like IVs and like rehydrating himself and resting like in a baric chamber or whatever? You don't know. Like maybe he's just taking care of himself, kind of like Tom Brady. Are they going to come back in 10 years and say, oh, Tom Brady was on some kind of performance enhancing drug, even though he like writes articles about how he doesn't eat anything and like he eats clean, like tells players like, hey, you should just eat clean like me, and stop going out and drinking beers. Like I'm 40 something years old. All I eat is fish. And then like, if I'm going to buy like something else, I eat like the best of it or whatever he said for pizza. I only buy the best pizza because I know that I'm going to feel like crap after eating it. But like some of these guys, like you don't know what they're doing. So there were a lot of Yankees out there. Andy Pettitte, Jason Giambi, A-Rod and all them. So like just for the fact that Barry Bonds was in there. And I even challenged people that used to be on the show. I was like, show me Barry Bonds' positive test, like the actual thing. Because all these other guys had them. They've been suspended and whatever. Barry never had that. I've never seen the proof. So if you can find it, send it to me. Because I would love to see it. Did the New York Times ever come out and say like, hey, we were going to reveal our source, because we're ruining this guy's life? No. So it's an absolute joke. I've said it before. Pete Rose should be in. And so should like Joe Jackson and all those guys. Put everybody in. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame. You can put them in their own section and say like, hey, they're going to be, they're connected to steroids, but like, don't just put Barry Bonds out by himself. They didn't put Roger Clemens in either. And it's kind of like, all right, why? Clemons might have tested positive. I don't remember. But for Barry Bonds, I look at it and it's kind of like, I look back and it's kind of like one of the things that really turned me off. Like, I know the Braves won the World Series and I was excited about it. But like, I'm not going to go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to keep watching baseball all the time. Because then I turn around and this happens. And so like to have David Ortiz, the only player voted in this year. But he's a lone player elected into the Hall of Fame by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Like, what a piece of shit organization. You know? Matt, you're going to tell me I'm going to read the baseball, whatever. He was in the Balco scandal that rocked it by saying that he used the clear, which was undetectable by doping test. So it's all hearsay, Matt. They have no proof. They think he used something called the clear, which would put you in the clear. Meanwhile, while he's not testing positive, all these other people are testing positive, Matt. You know? So only Barry Bonds had access to this special clear steroids. Of all the guys. Because like even Lance Armstrong, when it came out later that he was on steroids the whole time, they were still able to come back and test his samples and prove that it was. If they had it on Barry Bonds, you don't think they would have leaked that by now? It's been 20 years.
Well, and one of the best arguments that I heard about in regards to the voting is that what they should look at is it's like at the Hall of Fame it talks about it's based off of the play on the field. It doesn't say anything about their off the field stuff. So you can say what you want about the off the field stuff, but at the end of the day, he's one of the best players to ever play.
Matt, he was awesome for the Pirates. That's probably why I like him so much. Him and Bobby Bonilla. Remember those years? We were kids. Like that was like the shit.
Yes, and Andy Van Slyke. They had a great team.
I remember laughing because there was a video game for like Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, and it had one of the ads I remember was like Bobby Bonilla chasing a ball in the dirt. And I'm like, very typical. Like, how realistic. He would chase that ball in the dirt. And the Mets paid him all that money. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? They still pay him. I don't know if they still pay him to this day, but
no, they're finally done paying him.
But I'm like, that's why I said on the show, like if Barry Bonds would have stayed with the Pirates, that'd probably be my favorite team. And it'd be even more embarrassing than what's happening to them now, than like other teams that are out there. But to just like single out Bonds, and I know that they put Clemons and he's out, and like, was it Schilling? Who else did they not put in? I don't know if I saw a full list. I was just so fired up. I knew Bonds wasn't going to get in. Ortiz is in, Bonds, Clemons out. Does ESPN have the full list? Because I hate whenever they don't vote, because like some people are in. Ortiz had 77.9% of the vote. You need 75%. So, Sosa wasn't in either. Kurt Schilling. So I think were those the big four? I guess, yeah. So Ortiz is a different story. Despite his own PED suspicions, blah, 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 he denied that he used steroids, just like everybody else. Oh, man. So, like, that's the thing that annoys me. They don't have positive tests for anybody. But even the commissioner came out and said that, to his knowledge, Ortiz has never been positive at any point under our program. So, like, he comes out and singles them out. How about the other guys, They didn't stick up for him. So, Bonds was 66% and Clemens was 65.2%. Doesn't say what the other ones were in this article. It just is annoying to me. So, like, why did they keep Schilling out? Because his social media stuff? Right?
Yeah, because it's almost like his politics got in the way.
He said that he has a post on social media that endorses lynching of journalists. And guess who picks the Hall of Fame? Journalists. So it has nothing to do with his on the field. So yeah, they don't even have. So Matt, no one's even getting votes. So like, what are the job of these people? Isn't it to put in guys that are like Hall of Fame worthy? The only person that they say is going to be on the ballot going forward from this year is Jimmy Rollins. He made enough votes, but I mean, not enough to get in. Which, if you're telling Jimmy Rollins, no one even knows who the hell Jimmy Rollins is. Like, give me a break. If Alex Rodriguez gets in, he was actually suspended for the entire 2014 season for PEDs. So if he gets in and my man Barry doesn't get in, it's a sham. And the only reason Ortiz is in because he does TV now.
Well, I don't know how they would even.
I guarantee it. I guarantee that's the only reason Ortiz is in. Right? He's on Fox with Alex Rodriguez. They're both getting in, Matt. Write it down. Next year this time, A-Rod's going to be in with Ortiz. Because guess who he's buddies with? The guys he does TV with. It's the same reason I brought up that Urban Meyer had it easy. As soon as he left that gig to go to Jacksonville, where the NFL has an entirely different media scope, destroyed. They hated him every week. It's like the reverse Harbaugh. Harbaugh was loved in the NFL. College writers hate him. Always making stuff up, talking trash on him. Urban Meyer had rough at Florida. People were talking trash on him. Guess what? He's like, I want to take a year off and become friends with all these people. Everyone loved him. No one brought up any of the negative stuff. He goes to the NFL. Hate him. They're like, get this guy out of here. We don't like him at all. He didn't even last an entire year. So, like, I mean, you can just watch how the media just picks and chooses who they want. So that's my thing for this. I'm just very sad for Barry. I mean, he's like a hitting coach. He was a hitting coach. They were trying to give him trash for that. Honestly, Ortiz was a DH. Barry Bonds could have been a DH for like 3 more years, Matt. But no team wanted in the AL wanted him because they were like, well, he's a liability. How's he a liability? For what? He was still hitting better than most players in the league, Matt. So they just honestly didn't want him to have the home run record so high that no one will ever touch it. So like now we have guys that are coming in and like, well, I'm going to look and see like home run leaders, what the current guys are. Cause I don't even think anyone's even close. Cause I mean, just in terms of like that and like for them to like try to put asterisks beside it and like Bud Selig, like who cares what Bud Selig says? Like, I don't care. So Pujols, I guess he's still active, right? Yeah, he has to be getting up there. He's at 679. So he could potentially break it. How many more years does he have playing though? Julio Franco played forever. He didn't have a beginning of his career. Pujols is pretty good too. He's no Barry Bonds, but I would say he's up there as one of the best hitters I've ever seen too. So I'm sure they'll snub him. Did he ever get it? I'm going to try to do a steroid search on his. He had allegations against him in that same scandal. He was challenged to a polygraph test. I'm not even clicking on that bullshit. That's the most BS. Whenever you're looking at a guy and it's like, yeah, he tested positive. Let's do a polygraph test. How about you just release the test? I know MLB was fighting against it because everyone was probably in there positive, but it's like, I just want to see his home runs by year. I guess that doesn't show it. Let's see who else. I know this is the most exciting podcast as I try to figure out if anyone will come close to Barry Sanders or Barry Bonds. Barry Sanders, another great. It must be the name. If you want your kid to be great at sports, name him Barry. Miguel Cabrera, which Miggy, I like him. He's not going to come anywhere close. He's at 502 right now, and his career is already on the downswing. Nelson Cruz is at 449. He's a DH, so that's an easy gig for him. Oh, he's 41. Christ, why did that say that he's 32? Oh, he's been playing for 32 years? Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Edwin Encarnacion, 0 years, it says, but he has 424 home runs. He's also 39, so he won't be coming close. So it's really just Pujols, right? And from this list, he's 5th overall. He's 42 right now. He would have to hit practically 70 more home runs? to get there. What, he hit 30 a year? That's what I was trying to see what he's been hitting recently, because in terms of home runs per year, like I don't think he's been hitting that many per year. He has no chance. He's been hitting 5 and 6, Matt.
Oh, no.
I mean, I guess his highest is only 47 or 49. He had 49 that one year. So he's pretty much been hitting 30. But see, then his last couple of years were like 23, 19, 23, 6, 17, and 5. So I don't think it's going to happen unless these are all split up and it's like a 20 or 30. Like you'd have to hit 30 home runs for 3 years in a row or play till he's 50. But at that point, if he's hitting 6, if this is by year, which I would think it is, 6 in 2020. Did they have a shortened year though? Wasn't that the Rona year? Maybe they played less games that year.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's my thing. He's the only one that's close. Some of these other guys, Mike Trout, he's at 310. That's not even like 500. And he's already 30. Yeah. So Major League Baseball, you have a problem whenever you're looking at dudes that are playing and you're like, these guys are going to be great. And they're not even coming close to any of these guys. Like Mark McGwire's 11th. Sammy Sosa's up there. They're not going to get in the Hall of Fame, right? What about Palmeiro? Is he in? He's 13th. A-Rod's 4th. Can you have the number 1, number 4, number 9, and number 11 dudes all out of the Hall of Fame? I don't think so. What kind of Hall of Fame is that? I mean, I don't understand why they just don't let computers do it at this point. You look at the stats, you have the wins above replacement. You know Barry Bonds is out of this world. So why not just put him in? And I've been talking way too much on Barry Bonds. We don't even really talk baseball on the show anymore. So I don't know. It's just crazy. Let's see. So this comes up when I'm looking at Barry Bonds, as I talk about on the show. Buck Showalter explains why he walked Barry Bonds with bases loaded. So it was 1998. He walked Barry Bonds with Arizona was leading 8-6 in the 9th inning. And so he said, I didn't want to play extra innings because we were out of pitchers. So he thought that if he walked Barry Bonds, that would give him the best chance to win. And so, wait, did they end up losing? Nope, they won. So they walked Barry Bonds and then won the game after the next guy lined out to right field. So I didn't make it up. Look it up. Buck Showalter. It was the Diamondbacks, May 28th, 1998. They walked him with the bases loaded. So could you imagine? You're so good. Your team's like, they're in 9th inning. And they're like, you know what? We have a 2-run lead. We're just going to walk you.
How much pressure is that for the guy batting after him? Like, oh, we don't think you're that good. We're just going to run in.
Well, come on. He had to know, like, I'm following the best to ever do it right here. They're just going to walk this guy because they know I'm pretty much a sucky guy. So, because he was normally Jeff Kent. They said that Jeff Kent was not behind him that day. He was out. Because Kent was pretty good in his own right. 2 dudes that could, because he couldn't walk Bonds. He had to pitch to him sometimes. Where it was like, because I remember watching John Smoltz pitch to him, and I'm like, Smoltz, what the hell are you doing? And then, of course, Bonds hit a home run. And I was like, are you kidding me? Smoltz, you tried to lose the game. Why are you doing that? Why, just walk him at that point. There's no one even on the base. Everyone else is walking him. Does he have the record for most walks in a season? Because I think that has to be, it has to be him. Did they even keep that? I guess it has to be him because it came up Barry Bonds. 100 runs, 100 walks, and 100 RBIs in a season. Babe Ruth. Oh, Babe Ruth might have had a lot of walks too. This doesn't tell me if he has walks though. They have hit by pitch, but they don't really have it. I think that's the one thing that's kind of annoying. This guy only looked at data through 1930, whatever. It's like, all right, that has nothing to do with it. Our last topic, Hawaii. This is another funny story. unrelated to, well, I guess it is related to football. So June Jones is looked at to be brought back as Hawaii's head coach. They bring him in, and he previously coached there for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so the rumor is that they tried to bring back his offer. So when he was there, apparently he didn't like the Rainbow Warriors part of Hawaii's name. And so he wanted full control of the name and the marketing. And so Hawaii said, we're going to give you a 2-year contract then. And he was like, why are you trying to hamstring me? You're not giving me control of the team. And then you're only signing me to a 2-year deal. How is any recruit going to sign with my program knowing that I'm only going to be there as like a temporary solution? So he turned it down, which of course makes sense. I mean, that was his side of the story that I'm kind of relaying. I don't know if the Rainbow Warriors part was in there, but that was part of the reporting that I read, where it's like, hey, I want to market the team because it's NIL year, and I kind of have to bring people in. Like, what am I going to do? And they were kind of just like, you never know. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought it was comical that as they were doing a congressional investigation into it at Hawaii at the state level, it came out that Todd Graham, the former coach who had to step down, compared Hawaii to a third world country because they didn't have Dr. Pepper in the vending machine. Because apparently if you don't have Dr. Pepper, you're just living in poverty.
That's crazy.
But I thought the 2-year contract was kind of rough, and I thought the other thing that was a little bit crazy was that the athletic director was wanting to put restrictions on, or to be able to have the final say on picking a coaching staff. And I think that was kind of what would have been a deal breaker for me, because if you're trying to find, like, for someone like June Jones who has a lot of connections, you would think he would be able to get the guys that he needs to operate his system. And I don't think he would have needed the extra oversight. But
I don't even know what direction they move in, though, out there.
But they hired one of the guys that played for June Jones. He was a former quarterback, played well there. Timmy Chang. He was at Nevada. Yeah. I think that was about as perfect of a fit as you can have with someone who doesn't have prior head coaching experience, understands Hawaii, understands trying to recruit that area, and I hope he does a good job.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm still surprised that they would even offer someone that deal. And then it said that, because I'm looking to see other information on it, they said that they would have to approve assistant coaches. It's like he wouldn't even have any say in his program at all. It'd be pretty much just a name. And that was after your boy Todd Graham resigned after his own controversy. So it's like, why would you not bring back the guy that worked for Kansas State? They brought back, was it Bill Snyder?
Yeah,
I get confused. I almost said Bill Stewart, but that was the West Virginia guy. I already messed up too many names on the show.
At least you didn't say it was Bill Walsh.
No, George Walsh. What are you talking about?
George Costanza.
So, I think Hawaii has like that unique location. I just don't think they're going to have the funds to like really compete out there. But maybe you could pull some of those California kids or whatever out that way. I mean, they used to be known for like passing the ball around, but now there are so many other teams that kind of do that regularly. And like even Mike Leach, he's at Mississippi State now, where if you want to be in that kind of system, why go to Hawaii? I think some of that selling point's kind of gone away. Colt Brennan. Who else went out there? You already mentioned Chang, but didn't they have a couple other quarterbacks?
They had a bunch of guys that put up a pile of points.
Yeah, so that's where you're looking at that, and I don't know how some of these other schools are going to really compete. I actually saw an interesting stat, which I don't have. I was looking to see if I could find it, but they said that even in the Division I, there, like the rumor is, and it's kind of like, I don't know, they were trying to say that it's a myth now, where football makes so much money that it pays for a lot of the other sports, and they're saying that even with the money football is bringing in, at like 30% of the Division I schools, it's not even enough Like they're still losing money. Like they could cut football is what the premise of the article was. That like 30% of schools could cut football and actually make more money instead of losing it, which kind of makes sense because I think you're seeing a lot of teams travel now with the bigger conferences where you're traveling all over the country. And guess what? Fans aren't coming. If you're only getting 1,000, like, cause even, let's bring up Pitt. Let's be honest. If you've been to a Pitt game, plenty of seats available. I mean, like, I mean, I kind of joke about it, but people have been like, hey, you want to go to a Pitt game? And they're like, well, I don't know if we'll be able to get tickets. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why would you not be able to get tickets? You could walk in the day of and they'd probably roll out the red carpet to get you in. Same with like the Pirates. I had someone tell me, you got to get tickets ahead of time. I'm like, have you been to a Pirates game? You definitely do not need to get tickets ahead of time. Like people think that like Pittsburgh is like this mecca of games selling out all the time. It's like, no, maybe if you're going to Penn State or like a Michigan game or Ohio State or somewhere where you're like completely sold out. But even Ohio State has been having so much trouble. They return a bunch of Rose Bowl tickets. Their stadium was like 70% full this year. It's like, all right, people know, like even with Ryan Day, like you're talking, hey, you're bringing this product in. I don't know. Are people sold on you taking them to the next level? With Urban Meyer, you had that type of excitement. I think he kind of has it so high now. And that's why I'm surprised that like Alabama hasn't really felt this in terms of attendance. But I guess they're still always ranked number one and still winning in the national championship game every year. So maybe the excitement doesn't die. But what will happen at Clemson? NIL start getting out there, start losing a few more games. Are the fans going to fall back off? I don't know. That's what we'll see. But Hawaii could be in a place where you're a unique program. Same with like Boise State. You start chasing all these other conferences and stuff, and then you water your team down. It's going to be tough to build it back up. Don't disrespect old coaches because then no one's going to want to coach there. No one's going to coach there. I'm surprised Graham was out there. I don't even know who he was. I don't follow him like you do, but anything else you have? College football?
The one other college football thing was basketball related with Florida State beating Miami, continuing that streak of dominance that.
What kind of circle did you just draw? College football related. We're going to go college basketball.
It's ACC. ACC. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I've been holding it in for a while.
You didn't like me trashing their attendance at the ACC. I did have a Florida State thing for you, but now I'm completely blanking on what it was. It was something football related. Dang.
It was because we own the turnover chain. Miami isn't using it anymore.
Because their new coach, Cristobal.
Yeah, Mike Norvell, he took it from Diaz.
Oh, I thought, did he hire Randy Shannon? Is that their defensive coordinator? It'd be funny if he just hired him and it was the same Miami chain that they gave out. That'd be hilarious, actually. They just had it hanging on the bench, or the coach wore it. That would be hilarious. People wouldn't find it funny, but I would find it funny. Miami fans are probably listening and like, what the hell?
They'd be so offended.
I think that's what they should do. But yeah, basketball we'll start kicking into next week because we're running out of football stuff. Normally we transition to more of a college thing. NBA is still like so boring right now in the regular season where it doesn't matter. And I don't think they can ever change it now with super teams to really matter at all. I mean, NHL, you still have teams getting hot. Like Carolina started so hot down here that now they've kind of cooled off and they're like battling to get back in. I'm like, you still have that back and forth. In the NBA, the top teams, even if they have injuries, they're still like the top teams all year. So it's kind of like, why am I watching this? But I almost forgot. Harbaugh, on our Harbaugh tracker, I don't think things are going well for him. I said it last week that like at this point, I really didn't care if he went or stayed. The NIL to me, because I had someone ask this too, like, hey, are you more worried about the NIL or Harbaugh? It's like, I'm more worried about them. Are they going to go all in with NIL? There were some rumors that they were hiring some of the coaching staff from Texas A&M. And if you're going to bring that in, then go all the way. Like if you're going to try to bring that in to get some insight into how they're handling NIL, then do it. Perfect. Because obviously you've seen it happen. But I honestly do think that is more important than having Harbaugh there. I know Harbaugh elevated the school back up, but look, the only coach in recent times that really struggled there was Rich Rodriguez. Brady Hoke had his chance. I mean, they were 11-2 with him in the college football era. That might have been enough. If they had if they had an expanded playoffs, who knows how that season would have went if they would have got in, because they beat Virginia Tech in the BCS Bowl with Brady Hoke as their coach. He still recruited well. He had top 5 classes coming in. I think some of it was just kind of like assistant coaches that he kind of never let really innovate, where Harbaugh had that happening, finally got rid of Don Brown and brought in a bunch of young coaches and said, let's go. And they finally win the Big Ten. I think a lot of coaches need to realize, like, hey, don't be stubborn. Brian Kelly did it. None of his coaches even left Notre Dame to go with him to LSU.
Yeah.
And like, that was basically his thing. Remember, they went 4-8 and he kind of just stepped back and said, you guys come in, you're going to do your thing. And it gives you a scapegoat as a head coach once you have that clout, because at that point they already had the undefeated season. So he had a little bit of leeway that he wouldn't have had if they didn't. I know they got killed by Alabama in that national championship game, but at least you're in the national championship game. I think they're going to give you a little bit of cushion at Notre Dame. Harbaugh kind of has that. He was in the playoffs. They're giving him the cushion. At this point, though, hearing the leaks where it's like, hey, now the Vikings might be in play. No. Why are they in play now? Because the Raiders kind of said no. They're moving on past Harbaugh? Because the Dolphins said no? Like, you're just throwing other teams out there at this point? I honestly, like I said, my final statement is, I think the NFL, they know he's a great coach, but you also need to win. Look at the heat Mike McCarthy's been getting with the Cowboys.
That's because he's full of analytics.
You have to win the big games. Harbaugh at Michigan hasn't showed up in bowl games, and there's been excuses like, well, so-and-so didn't play, or a bunch of our players went pro, or like whatever. Okay, perfect. But then you make the playoffs, and you come out flat. You can't come out flat in every big game, except for Ohio State that one time. So maybe these NFL teams are kind of saying like, hey, we've seen it once. Do it again. Like, if he goes back to next year and it's back to losing big games and losing to Ohio State, it's going to be right back where he was, where I do think he wants to be in the NFL. But I think now, because of the losing has been 5 or 6 years it's taken him to get to that level, where if he would have jumped to the NFL right after the first year, or even the second year when they went to overtime with Ohio State, I think that would have been the perfect time for him to go. I think losing to Ohio State in overtime was such a stinger that he was like, I'm going to beat them. I'm going to come back and beat them. And it hasn't happened. And the NFL teams are kind of like, maybe he can't do it. He finally did it. But at this point, they're like, all right, he blew out Iowa. He would have had to leave the NFL for the NFL, I think, right there. He didn't want to do it because, I mean, he loves Michigan, let's be honest. So everyone's watching. If they would have beat Georgia or hell, won the national championship, I think 100% he would have had an NFL head coaching job the next day. But because they got killed, it's like, all right, you lost by 20-something in the playoffs. We don't want to lose by 20-something in the playoffs. You can blame it on talent, but as a coach, you're not going into a team with the most talent. We're going to need you to scheme on how to beat Patrick Mahomes. We're going to need you to scheme on how to beat like Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, like the 49ers just did. And Harbaugh, to me, he hasn't done it at college. The 49ers, he did it. I bet they were in the NFC Championship game a few years. They went to the Super Bowl. He didn't win it. I think if he would have won that Super Bowl, they might have hired him at this point, but that's where we're at. If he goes to the NFL, at this point, it's been, someone said the day tracker was like at 20-something days. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked if he leaves for that reason. I think the NFL knows he's a good coach, but I think the teams that have been wanting him are teams like the Jets, where he knows it's a bad situation and he doesn't want to go there for a complete rebuild.
Yeah.
So he's at the point where, hey, I see the Raiders. Hey, I'd love to take your team. And they're like, yeah, we need a guy that can win big games, and we don't know if that's you. And if the players are telling me that we almost pulled off an upset against a potential Super Bowl winning team, that means we're close. And the players want this other guy, we're going to go with the other guy. We don't want you to come in and kind of blow things up when we were this close, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, that very easily could have been the Raiders. Why not just stick with the guy that almost had it done anyway? So that's my final thought. Do you have anything else for college football?
No.
Final bell. I did find the batting stat or the walk stats while I was on my rant there. Barry Bonds has all-time walk leader. I couldn't find by season. He has 400 something more, or 300, 400 something, 400 walks more than Ricky Henderson all time in his career. So he has a season or two. How many at bats you get in a season? 300, 400. He has a season worth of walks, more than the next guy, Matt. He has 2,558 walks. Could you imagine if half of them were hits in play? How many more home runs he'd have? He'd at least have 20 or 30 home runs more. 2,000? That is ridiculous. Give me a break, man. I know. I'm surprised Ricky Henderson had that money because he was more of a base stealing guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He just played forever, probably. Must have had that good eye. Because then the rest are Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Joe Morgan. So it's all right. Those guys all make sense. Jim Thome at 7 kind of stands out to me. Because he has to be on the home run thing. Yeah, he's 6'12", so he's number 8. Which he is pretty high, too. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think.
Yeah, he was in 2018. I was going to say, I thought we talked about it on the show. I know he was on the ballot. Well, Matt, he's in the Cleveland Guardians Hall of Fame, which is number 1, bullshit, because he never played for the Guardians ever. So that'd be what was the one? Some other final bell. The Tampa Bay Rays owner is crushed that they wouldn't let him move to Montreal. Did you see that? It's why? Why do you want to move there? They just had all the headaches with the coronavirus and the international travel and all that stuff. Didn't the Toronto team have to play elsewhere? It's you're going to move to Montreal right now. Great time.
Right. We must have forgot. Well, he is in Tampa, so he doesn't realize that there's a pandemic in the rest of the world.
I'm telling you, they should just switch the Rays with the Durham Bulls because they have that movie, so they can kind of promote it. And I wonder which team would have more stands or more fans. Because I know Durham doesn't have the big stadium, but I bet they could get the stands extended. And I can't even talk now at this point of the show. But the outfield wall there, where you hit the bull and win the free steak or whatever that was in the movie. I think they could. I know there's a building there and some industrial stuff downtown Durham, but they could kind of expand it and have a real old school baseball feel stadium, a tight knit one, and really try to just sell an international team of hey, this is a team you can watch from all over North Carolina. They're going to be broadcast everywhere, and try to do something instead of making it a stale corporation type thing that doesn't sell anyway. Because I think that's what a lot of baseball is. I'm going to go to this old or this new stadium that's so big and corporate heavy. They're you were talking about Dr. Pepper. You see Dr. Pepper ads every step you go. You see all this weird stuff. And it's why am I hanging out here? At least in Durham, you'd be right downtown. And if they don't sell out or whatever, they don't make money, just raise the prices up. You're selling how many box seats already? Make all the tech companies in the area buy a bunch of stuff. I think it would be very successful. And then you have the movie to fall back on, and it is a big brand. I think a lot of people there's no Bulls team. That's a cool mascot. I mean, Chicago makes it work in the NBA. So that would be my pick. Moving to Montreal where they already failed. Try to find a different city that's kind of new that doesn't have anything that competes with it. That's my thing. So that's my last thing. You have anything else?
Nope. Thanks for watching.
All right. Yep. Thanks for watching. Go to southdotsports.com to keep up to date with our stuff, and we'll see you next week.